This was a full-fledged revolt led by a great leader called Shimon ben Kochva, who was apparently a very powerful and talented, gifted leader of men, and was able to organize the largest revolt, the greatest revolt against the Roman, not just in Eretz Yisrael, but throughout the Roman Empire, throughout history. There was never a greater revolt within the Roman Empire that so shook the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was completely shook up by this revolt. Now let me read to you some facts which you have before you in these pages. Mm-hmm. As we said, the revolt took place, or began in the year Gimel Tal Sadi Bet 132, according to the Gregorian calendar. Okay. And led by Shimon ben Kochva, or Kusiba, who became known as Bar Kochva, and it was finally crushed in the year Gimel Tal Sadi 136. All right, 135, 136 apparently, technically. The beginning of 136 perhaps. Was the end, the last stand perhaps, maybe. Now, to get some idea of what kind of event this was, take note of the following facts. The Romans, in order to crush this revolt, had to bring to Eretz Yisrael, they had 10 or 11 legions here. Each legion was about 5,000 soldiers. You're talking about the best trained, best equipped soldiers on the planet. They had 7 complete legions and 4 or 5 partial legions. On top of that, there were 30 auxiliary units. This is all quoted by the Roman historian Dio Cassius. Okay, I'm not making this up, I wouldn't know, I wasn't there, but Dio Cassius was there, and he tells you the figures. Okay? Some of these forces had to be brought from Britain, from Roman Britain, from far away. That was the furthest western extent of the Roman Empire. It just shows you that they had to dig all the way to the bottom of the barrel to bring all the forces necessary to crush this revolt. It was a tremendous revolt. So we're talking about 1/3 of the entire military forces that the Romans possessed at that time. Their entire military strength at that time was 28 legions. So we're talking here about 10, 11 legions worth of soldiers. That's over 1/3. Okay? And that's their entire empire, from near Persia to Britain and everything in between. Actually, they had to control a huge amount of territory, and you need a lot of military power for that. And they had to devote over 1/3 of their military strength to this revolt. Mm-hmm. As opposed to the what's known as the Mered HaGadol, the Mered of the Hurban, the revolt against the Romans that led to the Hurban of the Mikdash, which began in the year Gimel Tau Kaf Wow, the year 67, and ended in the year Tau Lamed Gimel 73, according to the Christian calendar. There, they managed to crush the revolt with only 4 legions. That gives you an idea of how much more intense and how much more widespread this revolt and how successful it was. Dio Cassius, the Roman historian, writes as follows: that 50 major fortresses of the Jews were destroyed, 50 major fortresses, 985 towns and villages were destroyed, 985, think about that. 580,000 were killed in battle. It's a huge number. And the number of people who died as a result of starvation and plague and what have you, and just general destruction is impossible, he says, impossible to know exactly, he writes. He says few survived this revolt. Those are his words. And he speaks about hundreds of thousands of Jewish captives who were then sold as slaves. It's reported by various sources from that time that the price of slaves in the Roman Empire plummeted at that time because there was a huge glut on the market. The price of a Jewish slave at the height of this glut was the equivalent of the the amount of money you needed to buy the food to feed a horse for one day. Not very much. Because there were hundreds of thousands of slaves to get rid of quickly. So it's a market. It's like anything else. It's supply and demand. There was a tremendous supply. Okay, so you have an idea of what kind of destruction the Jewish people suffered at the hands of the Romans at that time, and Eretz Yisrael suffered at that time. Eretz Yehuda, where we are right now, was desolate. There was basically not a single village left. Archaeologists who have dug up different parts of the country, this part of the country, have not found one single town or village from that period that was not destroyed. In other words, there are not clear signs of destruction at that time. Not one that survived.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.